Okay, I think we're about ready here. I want to welcome everybody to today's webinar. And the title of today's webinar is right here before you, Shortcuts and Backdoors to Get New Patients to Your Front Door. A little bit clever, if obvious. And this is to grow your practice as an entrepreneur. And I really want to talk to you about that today. And I'm going to show you something that you probably haven't considered before, and it's going to get you thinking more and more like an entrepreneur. This is a quick application practice organizing webinar. And I want you to really look at it that way, because this is going to get you very organized, and it's going to take the confusion that is your practice marketing, practice administration, practice management, all these things that you do, from treating patients to promoting for patients and so on, and it's going to sort them out and put them into a system and show you that there is really an order to things today. So, who am I? I'm Frank Sardella, and I'm a practice growth coach with Screening Experts. And I've been at this game a very long time. As of the taping of this webinar, it's been about 20 years or so. I've been a chiropractic advocate and a referral specialist. I've been a miracle chiropractic patient, and I've been referring patients to chiropractors in the thousands ever since. Screened and referred thousands of patients to many docs over those years. I'm an expert screener and lecturer and a practice growth specialist. I'm also an author and host of Will Work for Patients, Chiropractic Marketing, and Practice Growth podcast. And I'm the developer of something called the True Screening Process, which is something that we discovered that's revolutionized the way you get patients into your practice. It is a new patient recruitment system that is not scripted or script-based, but rather is a procedure, a philosophy, and a way of understanding people and prospects, as opposed to just memorizing some words to get over yourself. And it is a system that helps you get over yourself and get onto the person that you need to so convince. So that's a little bit about me. And in telling you something about me, I think you should know something. This is something that I've said a lot, and I've really promoted over the years to my clients in our coaching calls. I've said this a lot in social media, but this is one of my favorite philosophies that I hold, and that is finding ways of promoting your practice is an endeavor only limited by the far reaches of your imagination and not by your wallet, contrary to popular belief. I know it seems expensive sometimes. I know it seems very costly, and it can be, but really, you should be able to just sit down and come up with a new idea every day, practically. I have an ebook coming out called 201 Practice Marketing Ideas, and it's literally 201 ideas I sat down one day and figured out on how you could market a practice, most of them at little or no cost. Okay, so today what we want you to do is really think outside the box during today's webinar. Now, I want to show you what the current system is, the status quo out there with practices across the country and across the world. I call the fly by the seat of your pants system, and I want to show you a little bit about that. And you take a look at this and see if this seems familiar to you. We're going to divide this into two categories: things you're sort of doing now, and then things you wish you were doing. And if you don't know, if you notice, I didn't really say things you are doing. We talked about things that you're sort of kind of doing, and then things you wish you were doing. So let's take a look at some sort of doings. Talks and screenings. Most of you that I meet are sort of doing talks and screenings, okay? Even those of you who consider yourself very good at it are still in that sort of category in many ways. And we're going to not really get too deeply into that today, but we do have other forums where we do take that up. Your website, you have sort of website oftentimes, or you bought one from one of these companies that makes brilliant, beautiful chiropractic websites, or maybe you don't have a clue, but you sort of have a website up and you kind of feel you have it together, and that's part of your marketing, and things seem all right. Now, you wish you had more walk-ins for sure. I know every chiropractor wishes that he had more walk-ins. You wish you were doing more advertising, or at least you wish that you had money for advertising. You wish you were promoting to more professionals in your community, like attorneys and MDs, and maybe you don't have the time, or you feel you don't have the money, or maybe you don't feel it's worth it, but you wish that would kind of work out so that you would get referrals from those professionals. Back to sort of doing cherry picking leads. Now, this is a subject on which I have an entire 1 hour long webinar um, called cherry picking. Cherry picking is like skimming the cream off the top. So what you're sort of doing now is you're cherry picking those leads to new patients, and you're being very finicky and limiting yourself as to the number of people you meet based on the fact that whether you preconceive that people are qualified before even qualifying them, and you weed out what we call the duds. And we're going to get into that a little later in today's webinar. But you're weeding out what you consider not qualified, and I find that most chiropractors that I talk to have a huge list of standards on who's not qualified, far, far longer than the list of people who are. Educating prospects. Now, this is something very interesting. Why would I put this in here? Of course, chiropractors are always educating, but I'm talking about educating prospects. I'm talking about when you go out and do a talk, when you go out to a screening, or even in your advertising, that you're educating prospects, and perhaps even trying to educate people about what chiropractic is and what the profession is all about, which is all well and good, but there's some very interesting things about it being used in the, let's say, promotional or marketing sector that actually can count against you. And this is part of our coaching program. One of the concepts that I discovered is that even talking about chiropractic itself in a general education format, or educating prospects on certain symptoms and where things come from and what causes health problems, can be detrimental to you in the promotional process. Sell people an offer. Those are two words: selling and making an offer. Something that you're sort of doing out in public, you're sort of not sure on. What should my offer be is a question that I get oftentimes. And my question back is usually, why are you making an offer? That may make you think a little bit, because you may think you have to make an offer, but selling and offering is something you're sort of doing right now that may or may not be a good thing. And then scheduling but a few people. Okay, you're scheduling people, again, based on this qualifying process that you feel that you're cherry picking these people and only scheduling the few that you think are going to show up, or you're limiting them with collecting a deposit or some such thing. And then you're definitely on the sort of doing is no-shows. You notice I wrote this very big because I happen to know every chiropractor I talk to, their biggest concern is the no-shows that are coming in, and this is why a lot of you have some issues with going out and doing screenings and talks and any face-to-face type of marketing where you're meeting someone and scheduling them for the appointment because you're worried about no-shows. So you're sort of doing you're sort of having no-shows right now. Sometimes people show up and oftentimes they don't, and you're getting a little sick and tired of it. Back to what you wish you were doing. You wish you were doing patient mailings. When I ask if you're doing them, you say, we used to do them, we don't do them anymore, or I wish I could do them, I wish I had the money to do them, I wish I had the time to do them, or I don't see where they're important, but I could see where it would be beneficial if only I had the ideal practice situation. So you wish you were doing the mailings, you wish you were getting testimonials, or if you are getting a couple or have in the past, you wish you were getting them once again, or you wish you had many more of them. In-office education. Now, I know most of you are doing this, but you wish you were doing more of it. You wish there was a lot more to your educational process because perhaps you're not retaining people as much as you could, or they're not getting all the way through their treatment programs and they're dropping out in that relief phase like you wish that they wouldn't. You wish your patients were referring more, if at all, in many cases. I know many docs are just not getting any referrals from the patients, particularly those ones who aren't retaining the patients. There's no time to get the referral. Even if you did get an initial good result with someone, you wish you could give more of an orientation to people when they come in and throughout maybe your diagnostic phase and your ROF, reported findings, and so on and so forth. You wish you could have more of an orientation, and you wish you had arrivals, just as you're sort of doing the arrivals on the other side in the form of no-shows. You wish you had a lot of arrivals. hence the exclamation points. Sort of doing an exam right now. This is probably one of your strong suits, so it's not so much sort of doing as are doing, but is it in coordination with all the other actions that need to happen to really take the person through a process that turns them into not just a closed patient, somebody who accepts the treatment program. They can promise all they want, just like people when they book an appointment with you. Just because somebody booked an appointment with you, does that mean that they're going to show up for it? I think you have the answer to that question. And so it is with the exam and the consultation and everything like that. Just because at the end of that, when you do a report of findings, that you get a person closed, meaning they say, yes, I'm going to do it. Does that mean they're going to do it all the way? Does that mean they're going to do all 30, 40, 50, 60 visits? And the answer is no. So I'm going to put that under sort of doing an exam. You're sort of doing a diagnosis as well in that same regard. And your diagnostic, you may feel, is impeccable, but again, is the process getting the product? And that's what we're really looking at. So therefore, your findings as they're reported to the patient, sort of doing those, and getting patients started on a corrective treatment program is sort of happening right now too. And again, most of these are the benefit of the doubt. I think it's more good than bad, but in many cases it's more bad than good. So the purpose of this webinar is for us to take a good clean look at this. Initial results with the person. This would be a relief phase of care. A couple of visits and the person starts feeling good. So you are sort of getting some initial results, but you wish you were getting full correction on everyone. You wish they were staying to full term for all the visits or treatment that you're recommending. You wish they were going on to maintenance afterward. And you wish you were retaining them as well. So retention goes under the wish you were doing category, and you wish you could reactivate them. You probably, if you are watching this now and you're like any other chiropractor, you probably have a huge database of past patients who have been to your office. Okay? The average person I meet nowadays is taking care of about 50 people. Now, that's not visits, I mean actual people. So that could be anywhere from 50 to 150 visits total. But I'm saying like 50 or less actual people, and usually have a database of 700 or more people on the average. Imagine if you reactivated but a fraction of that. Even if you reactivated 10% of that database, you've more than doubled the number of patients and the number of visits that you're doing. So you wish you were doing more reactivation than you are in bringing people back into the fold. So what is this whole fly by the seat of your pants system? It's disorganized, it's incomplete, it's insufficient, and really there's no growth. I find that most people who fall into these categories in practice are not growing. In fact, to the contrary, they're not really staying the same. They're usually shrinking if you look at it on the longer term. And most people say, I'm not shrinking, I'm kind of staying the same. But if you go back a couple of years and take a look, you'll see that you're declining over time. Okay, this wasn't designed to depress you or anything like that. I just want to show you the status quo before we jump into a few interesting things. Now, I want to show you what past attempts at now taking that model and turning it into a practice growth system, into organizing it, what they've been, and sort of like, we're going to look at a semi-organized way of doing this that may look rather sane to you. It may look rather workable. However, insidiously does minimally not grow you, and at worst, will either hinder the growth or cause more of a shrinkage. So let's start with the most important thing, the thing everybody is after. Okay, out of all of the things, we're going to look at a whole confusion of various marketing and internal practice things and sales versus screenings and advertising and all these different things. And I wanted to narrow it down to one thing. What's the most important thing on which everything hinges? And that is the consult arrival, okay? The arrival is when the person actually shows in your office. You can be a master screener. You could close 100% of the people you meet, and you could be really good at getting volume, which means you could go out to a screening, let's say, meet 100 people and book 100 appointments. You could literally be that good. But it really doesn't mean anything if none of them arrive. So what I found is, for the marketing process to end and for the selling and treating and lifetime patient creating process to begin, there is a point that's shared by both. That's the end of one and the beginning of the other, and that guarantees that patient can move forward. And that is the arrival in the office. Okay, if they're a no-show, then marketing wasn't effective. And if they do show, then you have a shot at selling and creating a lifetime patient. So let's start with that as our midpoint. We're going to talk about the arrival for the consult in the office. Someone somehow got convinced to get there. So let's look at where we go from here. Now, I want to look at what feeds the arrival. So let's go back of that. We're sort of going back in time. If somebody arrives right now, we have to go back in time to see what we did for them to arrive. And this category is going to include all your advertising. It's going to include any promotion you're doing to professionals. Let's say you're sending a mailing out to attorneys, or you're going out and you're visiting medical doctors. And other medical specialists and professionals to entice them to send people. And then you have a website. And let's say you're doing some SEO, some search engine optimization, to make sure that when people search certain keywords, they're finding you and they're landing on your site and they're filling it in. Or they're finding you on social media, we can add in there. Walk-ins, people who just show up in your practice. Okay, these are all things that can result seemingly directly in an arrival. And then the pro referrals. If you're promoting to attorneys and medical doctors and such, then obviously if that's going to get effective, a pro referral may be made on their part. And patient referrals, your patients are going to refer. Now, if you notice, I have all these things kind of corralled in the same circle here as similar things, and this is how I find that you group them. And we're sort of taking a look at this as an attempt to sort of make an organized thing out of this. Because think about it. If you sit down and think about right now all the marketing you've done even over the last year, all the things you've done in your practice, all the procedures you have to do to sell patients, to deliver to patients, to try and retain patients, to reactivate patients, to get them to comply, get them educated, all those things. It's one big sea of confusion. So this is sort of one attempt at doing it. And I also want to show you where this is going, because these things don't necessarily first result in an arrival. A walk-in, yes, absolutely. A pro referral, it seems, does, but it may not as well, because the person still has to make an appointment. So we're going to say that these things at least lead to an appointment, and then let's assume they lead to an arrival in the ideal. Now, there are a few other things I want to consider that can feed this as well. So we're going to bring another circle of things that can result in an appointment, and that's when you go out and you do some talks and screenings. But this is a little bit different than advertising, isn't it? This is you face-to-face going out. So in the talks and screenings, you're actually going to screen people, you're going to qualify them, you're going to sort of weed them out, who can afford care, who's qualified that way financially, locally, has a condition that they may want to change at some point. You're going to book and confirm people. That's actually what the appointment is. And then I wanted to add this in here because I didn't know where to put this. But then one of the things that I noticed you do, especially with your screenings, but this could be in that other bubble too, the advertising website leads that come off of there, I noticed that ones that you mark dud, this is somebody who you feel for some reason isn't qualified on your long scroll that unwinds across the floor of reasons not to accept patients. And I find that you keep a pile of these, or even discard these surveys from the screenings, or if they're coming in off your website or something like that, you're sort of deleting them or not putting them anywhere. And they sort of just sit there unused, unlooked at, with the thought, or stamp on them, let's say, a mental stamp on it saying these are no good, they're duds. We're going to take a look at that a little bit later as well. But as you can see, these two bubbles tend to result in an appointment, which results in an arrival. So there is everything back in time of that arrival. Now let's go forward in time from that arrival and see in your past attempts to organize this thing where it's going. And also there's a little bit of status quo in here that I think you might have a little bit of reality with. The next thing after the consult arrival would be a sort of testing. They're going to go through a diagnostic phase. This may be your exam, it may be whatever it is, but there is a testing phase. And then after the testing, there's going to be a diagnosis. And what I mean by diagnosis is not the sharing of it necessarily with the patient, but your conclusions. You're looking at the results of the testing. You're looking at the X-rays. You're looking at their MRIs or their past history, depending on what disciplines that you're really applying this to. Whatever the diagnostic things are, that means the light bulb's going to go off with you as to what's wrong and what needs to be done. And then after that diagnosis, it has to be shared with the person. So there has to be a report of those findings, and those findings have to be used to sell your program. Now, does this look like so far what you do from the arrival forward? And my guess is yes for most of you. But hang with me here, because even if this isn't your exact scenario, it probably looks a little bit familiar to you. Now, after the sale of the program, your patients are going to start the program. Now, many of you lose at various parts of this. Many of you lose from the sale of the program to getting the patient to start. That means closing them on the program and getting them to say, yes, I will spend the money. Yes, I accept that my copay is this and the insurance company is going to pay that, and I have to sign all the checks over to you. And many of you may say I lose 50% of the people right off the bat. But I find the ones of you who think you're not good at this tend to be about 50%. And the ones that are pretty confident are usually at about 80%, which ain't bad. So we're going to assume you sell programs and you get patients to start the program, but here's where it happens. They start to get initial results. This is that dreaded relief phase that I'm finding many people can't seem to get through. And the initial result happens. However, this is where it dead ends. Now tell me you don't have a little bit of reality with that. This is the end of it. You see, it's not circular, it's linear, and it comes to a dead end. Now, there is another part of this, because there are missing things on here that can tie this whole thing together. And let's look at the things that aren't in this diagram. Okay, and again, this is a past attempt at a practice growth system. It's sort of, this system evolved, and then there's this other bubble I'm about to show you of things that sort of didn't fit into this because you didn't know how to fit them in. But you knew to corral them to the side to say, well, someday we're going to fit these in there, and somehow we're going to figure it out. So I call these wish I was doing more of these or at all. And that would be testimonials, maintenance care, full correction, meaning the person gets fully through the program and completes it, that you're doing some mailings to the patients to keep them informed, that you're educating more. If you notice, there's not a lot of education in this diagram here, and you wish you were doing that. And of course, reactivation. This is I have 50 current patients coming on average 1 to 2 visits per week. So you're doing 75 visits, and you have a database of 1,000 people, 10% of which would be 100 people. If you can get 10% of them reactivated, you would now be at, well over 200 visits. Okay, so these are things you have corralled in this bubble that says, wish I was doing more of these or doing them at all, but not really happening so much right now. I'm hitting that dead end, but the initial results should lead to those. And that right now, and your initial results are leading. I'm not saying all of your people dead end, you see, but if you look at the arrow that follows over to that, you're hoping for the best, and you feel like at best you have a 50-50 shot at it. So when you get to those initial results and the person gets to that relief phase and they start feeling good, or they start feeling better, or they start seeing the results, right now, let's call it 50-50. Let's be optimistic. 50% of them are dead ending, and 50% are maybe getting full correction, maybe giving you a testimonial or a referral or something like this. Okay, so this is the attempt at the practice growth system. Now, fairly organized, right? But there are a few misconceptions. I'll give you an example at the top here. If you look in the marketing bubble to the left above appointment, you'll see that the professional referrals is in there. And oftentimes in trying to chart or diagram or flow chart this out, and in real life, how it works in your practice is when a professional referral comes in, it just goes straight to the appointment phase. So you say, I really don't have to have record because I'm putting them in my patient database right away because they're showing up for a day one, a first day, complimentary visit, whatever it is. And therefore, they don't have to go into any sort of marketing pipeline or anything because I already have them. And I'm not going to flat out say that's not true because I want to show you something very that you'll like much better, let's say. Okay, let's move on from these past attempts. Now I want to shift your mindset on this. Okay, we're going to shift your view, and I'm going to show you something I call the practice growth funnel and loop system. And before I show you the system itself, I'm going to show you the basic structure of it, the basic skeleton. I want to give you a concept. Now that you've seen all the pieces, let me give you a basic structure on which to build a flow of those actions where you can see a sequence to all of these things, because there is. So let's take a look at it. The first thing is that you have one aspect where you're practicing and you're delivering. So that's the selling of treatment plans, the doing of the diagnostic, right? Patient education, patient referrals, relief phase of care, corrective care, maintenance care, reactivation, so on, right? And what I want you to think of it as sort of an oval, I call it a loop. Okay, so practicing and delivering as a loop. Now here's what I mean. You're going to have this loop is going to have a flow. Let's say that's going, if you look on the top of the loop, it's going to the right and it's going around and then it goes to the left and back around again. But you notice it's a continuous loop. These people are continuously should be recycled through this system, and this is how most practices try to operate. Okay, now we've got the practice and delivery. Now, how do we feed that loop? How do we inject people into it? If you notice, it's a closed loop, so you need an entrance point. And the entrance point comes from marketing and promotion, and that marketing and promotion goes into what the entrepreneurs call a funnel. And the funnel is sort of an entryway. It's a way to scoop up lots of people and then narrow them down into the best ones that you can get into the loop. And that has a direction too. They enter in the top, they come out through the bottom. If you notice, the bottom is much smaller. So there's a refining process in there. And that injects them into this other loop. Now I want you to note something about the funnel. The funnel, if you notice, doesn't have any holes in it. So it's wide at the top so it can bring in a lot of people, but it's small at the bottom. Why? Not because we're sifting people out, because we're refining them into more and more and more likely to become a patient, or at least, the end result of a funnel is an arrival in your place, in your practice. So they're becoming more and more and more and more likely. They're getting more and more refined, meaning worked on in this funnel. And at the bottom, they're coming out a much more quality person. But the point is, you're making them quality in this funnel. It's not a strainer. It's not a sifter. I just really want to drive that point home. You're not getting people out of the funnel once they're in. Okay, so where does that funnel end up? At the bottom, it injects right into the loop. And now I want to show you how that is. And we're going to start with the basics. So here's your basic loop and funnel again, right? You have the loop, that's your everyday practice, and you have the funnel that's sort of the gateway to get in. And what is the center point that we started on last time? Well, between selling and delivering, and retaining and reactivating, there is a doorway there to that from the funnel, and that's your consult arrival. If you remember a couple of slides ago, we started with the consult arrival as the centralized point. Now, can we all agree right now that the consult arrival is the single most important point in the travels of a potential new patient in your office, right? Because if he never arrives, he'll never become a patient, much less a lifetime one. So we're going to start with that, and I want to actually start with your loop in the ideal. Okay, I'm going to show you now how the loop should work without a dead end. And I'm going to give you a tool you can use right after this webinar to be able to make that happen in your practice for yourself without doing anything else, without even talking to me anymore after this. Now, where after a consult arrival should a person ideally go? They're going to get that testing. You already saw that in the other loop. That's going to be your exam. It's going to be whatever tests you have to do on somebody and whatever you have to do to get a good, adequate diagnosis going. After the testing, you're going to have an orientation period. You're going to need to orient. Now, why do I call it orientation and not full-blown education? The reason is education should be time release. Now, I'm not going to get into that in this webinar. That's something that we cover in our other training modules and so on. But what I can tell you is it is a limited educational view here, only enough education to get them to the point where they're going to make the right decision. Okay, you haven't started treating them yet. We're still in this magical diagnostic phase, and we haven't even given them a report of the findings yet. So you need to orient them a little bit to what's going on, maybe how it's going to work, maybe what the report of findings is going to be about, maybe it's whatever it is for you, but it's a drastically narrowed down look. This is not educating them on every aspect of what's going on with them or whatever, but you may cover subluxation at this point, or depending on the discipline that you are, if you're in physical therapy or you're a health coach or something like this, there will be something less than what you're going to give them in your coaching or your treatment program. Anyway, so they're going to arrive, they're going to have testing, they're going to have orientation, and then a diagnosis is going to come. Now, this is very much you actually putting together the pieces and coming up with a diagnosis, which is basically not just the full report of exactly what's going on with the person, but it's going to be a way in which to present it that will make them want to take action. And that's something that you want to know. Already you can tell this is sort of going in a more streamlined way. So let's see what comes next. That would be after the diagnosis. Now you're going to give them a report of your findings, and you're going to sell them on what they need to do next. And that requires a little bit of sales ability. And taking all of that orientation information, all of the diagnostic information, and putting it all together to convince this person that they need to take that next step, which is to accept the treatment program that you're going to present. And then, of course, in the ideal, when they accept that, they're going to start the program. Now, there are many programs you can do to improve this part of your practice. I'm not here to talk to you about that. I just want to show you that a loop exists so you can start working on your own personal loop. And then I'm going to show you where the funnel, the marketing injects into this loop so that you can separate them out and really start winning. After the person starts the program, or during their start of the program, what we're going to do is, you see a little sidebar line here to a patient database. We're going to enter that person in the computer. Okay, and that's not technically, it's a little side road off the loop, like a little service road, but it stays along the basic loop, and you're going to see that in a minute how it connects up, because after starting the program, then you're going to really educate these people. You're going to educate them on their condition, on what causes that condition, on what exactly you're going to do to treat that condition and whatever. You're going to have them, in the ideal, one of the things we do for our clients is we make them a series of videos, educational videos that sort of, if you put a magnifying glass over this educational bubble here, you would be able to see a series of little bubbles that go in sequence. And these bubbles may have an orientation video and then a tips video, and then there are a lot of different things that you can do. And it's something that you don't want to go into lightly, and you may just have some method now that you can fit into this loop and enhance it later. The basic thing is, when the person starts the program, it's very important to continue their education. And as you continue their education, you want to also keep them in the loop, figuratively and literally speaking, with regular mailings. And this is where your patient newsletter, not emailed so much, but actual mail. Okay, I'm talking about hard copy, snail mail kind of regular mailings to keep them in the loop of what's going on in the practice. That's how they're going to find out about everything else. And that's also what's going to help retain them, because they're being included. Did you ever notice that your clients, when you have to see them in your shop, even if you see them 3 times a week, you're only seeing them for a maximum total of 3 hours? And that's actually, that means they're out there making mistakes and doing all kinds of things, not under your supervision. And so regular mailings and education and advice and things like that are going to help with that retention. So I'm going to also here put another arrow from the patient database into the regular mailing, so you can see there's that little side road there, but it goes right along in with this loop. And again, this loop is going to connect up again to the beginning. So I want to move on from regular mailings to initial results. Now, we've gotten this far in our last diagram. The initial result that the person gets, this is like a relief phase of care. Person feels better, they start to feel good. This is where the crucial moment is, because if you remember in the other diagram, that was a dead end. And we're not going to dead end it here, because now is the time to get a testimonial. Here is a mistake made by many, and that is that they're getting the testimonial toward the end, or whatever, Most people will tell you to get it on a good day. I'm just telling you, when you see the person getting through that relief phase, that's the time to ask them for a testimonial. And that is the time where they're most likely to give you a referral. Now, I'm not going to continue the referral on this loop, and we're going to set it aside because referrals are part of marketing. So I'm going to park them off to the side, but you see it results from that testimonial and those initial results, okay? But it goes sort of out of the loop, and we're going to take that up in a minute, but I want to show you where it goes forward from testimonial, as the next thing that would happen after that, because they've gotten that relief phase done, the initial result, they're going to complete their care, whatever plan it is that you had for them. This is the correction of the problem. Okay, so they're going to have a plan completion, and then from the completion, that's when ideally you're going to get them onto maintenance. Do you see how this is actually really enforcing this cycle? And you can actually, again, put a magnifying glass over any one of these sections and expand it. But you today can put in this basic loop into your practice and make sure that these things are happening in sequence. And after maintenance, in the ideal, you're going to have a reactivation, because let's face it, you're going to need to, again, keep those regular mailings going with the patient database and what have you. But maybe maintenance is only a couple times a year. If this person re-injures themselves or has a relapse or recurrence or something, there has to be a reactivation going, and guess what that does? It brings them right back into the office to the consult arrival, and you have there a completed loop. And this is the loop of selling, delivering, retaining, and reactivating. And it's a very simple loop if you look at that, and it only has one offshoot where the referrals come in, and I'm going to show you in a moment where they go. So just to recap, we go from the consult through testing, through a little bit of orientation. You formulate a diagnosis, you sell a treatment program, you get them to start a program and add them to your mailing list, you educate them and you send them regular mailings, you get an initial result and immediately get testimonials and referrals, you complete the care plan and get them corrected, you get them to maintain and prevent, and you reactivate them when they need you again and bring them back in for a consult through the whole loop again. Okay, part two of this now would be, where does marketing fit in? And that is your front door to that consult arrival. That's where that funnel is going to come in. We need to feed those arrivals into this loop in volume. So here's how it's done. This is the marketing and promotion section of this funnel and loop system. Now, the top of the funnel is very wide. And what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to show you, we're not going to talk quickly here about advertising and websites and screenings and promotion. I want to talk about the types of actions that need to happen inside this funnel. I want to show you this funnel as entrepreneurs do it. Okay? When I say entrepreneurs, I'm not talking about people who are like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, I sell Cutco knives or something. I'm talking about somebody who doesn't call themselves an entrepreneur, but really lives that definition in creating multi-million-dollar businesses. And I've studied these people extensively over the last couple of years and what they do and what various ones of them have done. In fact, you can even watch something as simple as that show on TV, Shark Tank, and you can see sort of how these things are done. But there's tons of stuff. Go on YouTube, go online, search around for what entrepreneurs do and habits of entrepreneurs. What they're always talking about is getting people into a pipeline and a funnel. They're always saying funnel. Well, I wanted to find out, what is that funnel like and what does it do? Because you guys are using a sifter. Remember I said in the beginning of this webinar that you're very much cherry picking and you're skimming off the top and you're trying to sift out before you let this thing work. And I have to show you how you're actually cutting off your future income by doing this. So at the very widest part of the funnel, this is where we're corralling, recruiting, and capturing leads. Now, lead does not mean a cherry-picked lead. It doesn't mean a refined or qualified lead. It just means almost everybody. You really want to pump as many people into this funnel as you can. And believe you me, those who aren't qualified at this part of the funnel very well will be toward the bottom of it. And it's not necessarily going to only take one day or 5 minutes to get a person. It might take several contacts, and that's why I want you to see this funnel. So we're going to corral and recruit, capture leads, and after that, we're going to database them you remember that red circle on that slide where I said I felt compelled to put this here, where you take what you call the duds and you put them to the side and you have stacks of them in your back rooms? I've seen them, okay? I've been to the back rooms of the chiropractic offices of America. I've traveled around a lot, camped out at doctor's office. The first thing I do is I go in the back and I look at all the other coaching programs and consulting programs, the agendas and manuals and products of which are sitting on your backroom shelves collecting dust. And in addition to that, the other thing that is famous for being found in those offices is file folders and stacks of stress surveys or health surveys from screenings that are just collecting dust, ones that were not qualified or duds or didn't close. And you'd be surprised how many have been thrown out, shredded, lost in a move, whatever. This is money being thrown away in the garbage. You might as well start burning $100 bills in your fireplace. So we database every single lead. And after databasing the leads, then we engage those leads to a call of action. And you see that when you start to call people to action, the ones who are ready to go, you're going to get first, and the other ones need to be worked on a little bit. And so engaging them is really enlightening them more. Maybe it only takes one enlightenment for the person to move on, but maybe it takes several. And for that, you need to promote to these leads that you have. So your biggest, if you look at the top of this, you see the biggest action you're going to do is the lead collection. And you need to understand this. Your marketing CA needs to understand this. Your associate who you expect to do marketing especially needs to understand this. All you guys need to collect first and foremost as a priority is leads, and don't ever devalue them. But you're going to engage those leads, and then you're going to call them to action. And then after that, you're going to screen and qualify them. Now, a call to action could be just simply, hey, would you like to do a free massage today? Here, fill this out. Okay, that's engaging them, and that's calling them to action. And then once they fill out your survey and you look it up and you screen them, that's the screening part. You're qualifying them from there. If immediately you see they're not local, well, they're not going to be qualified. But if immediately you see they have no symptoms, they're also not qualified. But think about it, folks. Right then and there, if they have no symptoms right now, isn't it possible that tomorrow something could happen? They fall at work, they slip on the ice, they have a car accident, they develop some kind of condition, they twist the wrong way, they sleep the wrong way, whatever. One of my most famous things that I'm famous for saying is that somebody who isn't qualified today can very well be qualified tomorrow. Okay, and you should remember that. But we're going to screen and qualify them today. And if they're not qualified today, well, we're going to keep promoting to them until they are qualified. Okay, but we're going to screen and qualify. After that, then that leads to a booking and a confirmation. And then from there, we lead them to be an arrival. Okay, now you can see this is a much more elaborate system than perhaps you're doing. Perhaps you're oversimplifying this funnel and wondering why you're getting so many no-shows. The reason is they have to be worked through this funnel until they're ready to come through the bottom. And that takes some work and some doing sometimes, and several contacts, folks, more than just one. Now, let's take all that confusing promotion and put it in there. Well, let's take the easiest one first, because we already have a piece of promotion on here, and that is referrals. If you look at the bottom left-hand corner, coming off of testimonials, I said that goes out of the loop because it's going to go back into our funnel. And I'm going to put an arrow there going from referrals, and you see it goes right in the top of the funnel. We corral those referrals in, we database them, we engage them and call them to action, we screen and qualify them, we book and confirm them, and we get them to arrive into the office. Now, without even putting any other marketing pieces into this puzzle, you could just take that right there and modify how you think of your referrals and how you treat your referrals and totally improve your practice. You can totally do that, okay? But I want to show you everything you can do today. I want to sort out all the things you're doing in marketing and show you how they fit into here. Because, for instance, let's say an MD refers to you. You might think, okay, it goes from MD referral right to where it says book and confirm the person or arrival. Because, oh yeah, well they're helping book the appointment, or it's getting booked right away, and they're skipping the other thing, and technically the doctor screened or qualified them. Nuh-uh. Doesn't work like that. Let me show you what I mean. Let's take the first thing would be the easiest one is walk in or call in. We all wish we had more of those. Fine. But let's start with them whether you get them or not. A walk in or a call in, you would think is an arrival. Okay? Because they called in, well, maybe much less a call in than a walk in. But a walk in, think about a walk in. Wouldn't you think that that's starting right at that consult arrival piece of the pipeline there? And it's actually not. They need to be treated as a top of the funnel, corralled, recruited, and captured lead. They're only a lead even when they walk in because they don't understand this full thing and they have to be qualified before they're really going to go through this pipeline. And you will see you'll have much more qualified people and you don't have to quote unquote weed out. So walk-ins and call-ins are going to go directly in the top of your funnel. Okay, now advertising. You're doing advertising. Let's say you're doing direct mail or newspaper ads or radio ads, what have you. Advertising is going to lead people to either call or walk in, okay, or advertising will lead them to your website, which in turn should direct them to be corralled, recruited, and captured at the top of the funnel. Notice the website doesn't lead to your front door. The website leads to the top of the funnel. You want your website to try and capture their information. Here's a great example. I get this all the time. A client or a prospective client is talking to me in the phone conversation. We get to talking about web and they said, wow, here's something cool. I just looked at my analytics and 150 people visited my website yesterday. And I go, my goodness, it's fantastic. That's great. Who are they? And the person says, I don't know, right? So of what value are those people? So what 150 people saw your website? That's 150 people who didn't take action, who may be looking at a different chiropractor's website, who did take the time to operate on this funnel and who did in turn get them as a patient. Okay, so from advertising, they either walk or call in, but then they go through the funnel, or they go to the website and the website should direct them into the funnel. You see a pattern here. Referrals into the funnel, not into the consult or arrival. Even if it only takes 5 minutes to go through that funnel, they still have to go through those phases. And the same thing with your advertising, your website people, your walk-in, and your call-in. The next thing would be you're doing talks and screenings. Let's take a look at that. I used to think even talks and screenings would go right to engage and call to action or screen and qualify because that's really screening. And that may be true enough, but notice you're skipping databasing those people, getting all their information, okay, and really engaging them and calling them to action. You're going to have a less likely person at the end of that funnel to arrive in the office. Those are your no-shows. So from talks and screenings, you have to have a recruiter there. Talks and screenings, you have to have somebody who's, hi, would you like a free whatever today? Whatever. Somebody who's really good at getting people convinced that they need to participate in what's happening right now. And where does that recruiter put those people? Right in the top of the funnel. It doesn't go in the bottom of the funnel. It doesn't go in the middle of the funnel. They go right in the top. There's only one way in and one way out. And the flow only goes one way. Nobody spills over and out. Once they're in there for good until they become a patient, even if that takes years. And then professional promotion. You're promoting to lawyers. You're promoting to, I don't care if it's body shops. You're promoting to medical doctors or other disciplinarians. Pros promotion could be you going and doing presentations or talks to those professionals, okay? That kind of promotion. Where does it lead? It leads to a professional referral. A MD sends you a patient. Where does that patient go? That patient, you have to realize, this is the way to think with it to make yourself remember. That patient is the MD's patient at that point, still not yours, even though he's been referred. So where does he go? He goes to the top of the funnel. And this is the true practice growth funnel and loop system. This is the way to getting your practice streamlined and growing. And it is the only way to do it, okay? This is the entrepreneurial route that you're going to take to build your practices, and this is what I hope for you, okay? This is so important. Yes, we do go over this in our basic coaching, but this is so important. I want everybody to know. I don't care whether you ever work with me or not, you at least need to know this. Now, can I help you build that funnel? Can I help you understand these things? Can I help you get far more people dumped into that funnel? Absolutely. But I'm finding that look, if you don't have a basic setup like this or don't even know anything about this, it's not even worth it to work with you at this point. I'm wasting your time and money, and frankly, so is every other consultant. So we want to give you something on which to build your prosperity. And from this, you should be able to apply right away. Okay, now I want to, I formulated a special offer for you. I always give a special offer at the end of my webinars. And this is what I want to first offer to you. There's a couple of offers here. The first one is a free 15-minute coaching call. And that's really to answer any questions from today's webinar that you've had on any of these diagrams. You saw a lot of diagrams and got a lot of information. Also, I can even arrange to give you chart copies of many of these things, and I do want you to contact me for that. And I would like everybody who views this webinar today to have that 15-minute call with me, mostly because I want to meet you, but and I'm very interested in your practice. And I love hearing stories about practice growth and about people's purpose, and I never get tired of that. But also really to help you take that next step. And I want you to get everything out of this, and I don't want you to have anything misunderstood about it. No misconceptions. I want it to be completely useful to you, and that 15 minutes is my guarantee that that's going to happen. So I want you to follow up on that. And again, let me just go over the finer points of what we'll do. We're going to clarify any points that you didn't totally get from this. And I want to really see what model you're operating on right now. So we want to take a look at that. I want to speculate like crazy with you on what your potential growth is. I want to give you my assessment of it from what you tell me, and I want you to take a good look at it, more importantly, to decide what that's going to be for yourself, and really look at how all of this applies to your situation. What you can do to follow up on this is, first and foremost, you can email me personally at frank@screeningexperts.com, and let me know you want that free 15-minute coaching call. In fact, pop that in the subject line, free 15-minute coaching, so I'll know right away when I see it in the inbox. Boom, go right to that and schedule this person, and we'll follow up with you immediately. And then if you want to go even faster than that, you can give us a shout at the number here, 845-219-1101. And if you have to leave a voicemail, we're very quick on the draw to get back to you on that. So do follow up on this, and please take advantage of the 15 minutes. I'm eager to talk to you and very interested in finding out about you. And, you know, this is 15 minutes of free advice and a chance to bounce some ideas off of another professional and somebody who has some marketing experience. Now, I also want to talk to you about my recommendation for what you should do next after this, and that is a very popular webinar we have called Shortcuts and Backdoors to Getting Free Toxin Screenings Anywhere, and I really do mean that. So what is this all about? Let me tell you what you're going to learn in this webinar. This webinar is going to teach you how to save hours of your time that I know you don't have. I absolutely know you don't have the time to do these actions. When you want to go out and find events or call corporations and call gatekeepers and get hung up on and all these things, you know, I know it's a pain, mostly a pain because you just don't have the time to do it, and you're kind of begrudgingly doing it. So I want to show you how you can save hours of time that you don't have and actually get others talking you up for free. And I mean talking you up not just to other people they want to refer as patients, but to the people who you want to influence to let you come into their place of business, to talk to their customers, members, employees, whatever it is, okay? And get someone else to do all of the footwork for actually no pay. And I know this sounds kind of pie in the sky, but it actually is that, okay? I have a couple of dozen things that I want to show you. No cold calls or talking to gatekeepers ever. Which is interesting. Someone else is going to do all of that for you. You don't even have to do any selling. Someone else is going to sell someone else on you dealing with that someone else. And you're going to learn how to easily get into dozens of choice venues without spending any of your time and virtually any of your money. And I only say virtually, and I should say virtually time too, because everything takes a little bit of time and money and what have you, but I'm talking about the time of you concentrating on this thing. I'm talking about not having to hire a marketing assistant. In fact, even if you have a marketing assistant or your associate does marketing for you, they will have saved time as well. And I know this will be appealing to them because they'll be able to get someone else to do it for them for free and get far faster and more voluminous results, if you will. So how much is it? It's not just $75. It's the best $75 you've ever spent on marketing in your entire practice career, or probably ever will spend. That's how much we're going to pack in. It was originally slated to be an hour-long webinar. It's actually 90 minutes long, and it's jam-packed. In fact, there are more ideas to be had from this, because what we do is we get you to think outside the box. Every time I look at it, I think of new ideas, and I know you're going to as well. So you're going to get far beyond that, and you'll be able to view it multiple times. So I want you to sign up for this webinar now, and what you can do to do that is visit thetruescreeningprocess.com. You can call in at 845-219-1101, and of course you can reach me directly at frank@screeningexperts.com. I want to thank you very much for attending today. It's been a pleasure presenting this for you. I sincerely hope this helps you expand your practice. I know it will. I'm very confident that it will, but I do like confirmation, so I very much would like you to take me up on that 15 minutes of free coaching, because it is the thing that's going to help you launch yourself into the future using this data, and also to help you figure out what to do next. And I would very much like to direct you to do so. So please do keep me posted. Send me your emails, call in, and also sign up for this next webinar that is going to be really super useful to you. But if you want to talk to me first, I will further sell you on doing it, because I'm totally confident it's going to help you. So thank you again for allowing me to talk to you today and for listening. It's been a pleasure having you here, and we'll see you in the next coaching call or the next webinar. Thank you.